Welcome to LSI training for SWAN Portal version 3. This is training module 4, in which we will discuss entering LSI activities. LSI activity entry in the SWAN portal is a vital tool in tracking the outputs and outcomes of the SWAN LSI program. SWAN LSI activity entry tracks specific tasks that inform outcome measurement. The collection of LSI activity data is child-centered and is not intended to fully capture all of the work that an LSI paralegal performs. Activity entry in SWAN Portal version 3 will continue to utilize time and frequency parameters as established in previous SWAN Portal versions. The expectation is that LSI paralegals will make every possible effort to enter activities within 7 days of the activity having been completed and to enter all activities for a given month no later than the 5th of the following month. A quick note about minimum entry requirements for different LSI activity categories. All LSI activities require an activity date and will pre-fill with the date that the entry is being made. If the activity actually occurred on a different date, please be aware to change that. Juvenile court, orphans court, pre-court involvement, and DHS expunction activities all require at least one activity checkbox to be checked. To enter a hearing into the hearing section requires at minimum a hearing type. And finally, diligent search requires a search reason, a subject of the search, and a yes or no response to whether the search is accurate only, whether an address has been found and verified, and whether the child is court involved. Now let's go ahead and enter some LSI activities together. Here we are on the home screen of SWAN Portal version 3. And to get to our child search function, we have two options. We can click the child search button under our quick links menu or under children in the left side navigation pane. As covered in previous modules, this opens up our child search function in the fields that we can fill in to search for a child. The child that I'm searching for is named Tommy Katz. So we will enter his first and last name, click the search button to the top right. And we will have to scroll down to make sure we can view all the search results. We have a couple of records here, and the first one seems to match my child's name. This is indeed the child I'm looking for. Now we have a couple of options here. To view the child record overview screen, we can simply click the child's hyperlinked last name, or we can click the Actions button and View. Either of those options will take us to the child record overview screen. If we want to skip directly to the LSI activity screen for this child and save a step, we can use the Actions button and choose the option for View LSI activities. Let's go to the child record overview screen by clicking the child's hyperlinked last name. Here we can see to the left under child info, some of the demographic and status information that's been previously entered. And to the right, we see our activity screen. From here to get to the LSI activity entry screen, we will click the blue LSI activities hyperlink underneath activity. Here we are in the LSI activity screen for Tommy Katz. There is nothing in our list indicating that no LSI activities have yet been entered. To create a new LSI activity, in the top right corner, we will click the Create New LSI Activity button. This will provide options for each of the LSI activity categories. Let's start by doing a diligent search. The first thing you may notice is that this child has some siblings listed at the top of the screen. Sibling link and entering activities for sibling groups was covered partially in Training Module 3. So if you have not yet reviewed that module, you will want to. But we see that Tommy has a brother named Jerry and a half-brother named Garfield. This will come into play as we see whether or not the activities that we are entering for Tommy also apply to his two siblings. In our scenario, we performed a diligent search to locate Tommy's father on July 23rd. The required information here is very much the same as the previous version of the SWAN portal. We are required to give a diligent search reason, in this case, missing parent. Fostering connection letters sent can be entered if applicable, but it is not a requirement. The subject of the search is going to be Tommy's father. Accurate only, we'll say no. We did a full diligent search. Address found and verified, nope. And the child is court involved. We again, just like in previous versions of the portal, have the option to also indicate a secondary reason for the search. In this case, I'm going to say that the search was just done for the purpose of locating the missing parent. Now we noted that our siblings, Jerry and Garfield, one is a brother and the other is a half-brother. So perhaps in this case, we are searching for the father of Tom and Jerry, but Garfield has a different father. I'm already in Tommy's record, so the entry will automatically be entered into his record, but we also want to check the box next to Jerry so that the activity will show up in Jerry's record as well. Since the activity does not apply to Garfield, we will simply not check the box next to his name. Once all of our details have been entered, we have two options at the bottom of the page, Save and Save and New. Clicking Save will save the entry and take us back to the LSI Activities page. Save and New will save the entry, but open up a new form to enter another diligent search activity. Let's click Save. We can go back to our LSI Activities screen, and we see the diligent search entered, 723, missing parent. Let's add another activity. Juvenile court. Let's say that there was a hearing for these children held on July 25th, and we attended the hearing to support the solicitor and also to provide CPCMS support. Again, the requirements for entry are very much the same as the previous version of the SWAN portal. There are options here for handoff date, filing date, and comments, and those can be entered if appropriate and if needed, but they are not required fields. Again, we have our siblings at the top of the screen, and in this case, we're going to say that it applies to all of the siblings. Once all of our detail is entered, we can hit Save or Save and New. Again, Save and New will save the entry, but open up a new blank form within the same activity category. In other words, it will take us to a new form to enter another juvenile court activity. In this case, let's just hit Save, and we go back to our LSI activity screen, and we can see our juvenile court entry for attending the hearing, as well as our diligent search entry that we previously entered. Just to reiterate the siblings function, let's take a quick look at the records of Tommy's siblings. We can do that by going to Child Search and looking them up, or by going to Tommy's Child Record Overview screen, scrolling down in the Child Info section to our siblings hyperlink, and from there, clicking on either of their hyperlinked last names. Let's take a look at Jerry's record. So Jerry is Tommy's full brother, and if we go to his LSI activity screen, we should see the same two activities that we entered for Tommy because they applied to both children. And there they are. We entered the diligent search that was performed on July 23rd and our attendance at the court hearing on July 25th. Let's take a look at Garfield's record. Now, we said that Garfield was Tommy's half-sibling, and while the court hearing activity did apply to him, the diligent search did not, because he has a different father than his two siblings. And here we see the juvenile court activity from July 25th is in Garfield's activity list, attending the hearing to support solicitor and also to provide CPCMS support. The diligent search that we entered for Tom and Jerry does not appear because we did not click Garfield's name. One other note about entering activities for sibling groups, as mentioned in Training Module 3, is that the activity will automatically be entered for the child whose record you are working from. So if we had been working from Garfield's record, we would not be able to enter that diligent search for Tom and Jerry. We would have had to go into either one of their records, and then we can enter it for both of them from there. If you have not already, or need to review the details of linking sibling records, please see Training Module 3. Let's go back to Tommy's record. Here I am again in Tommy's child record overview screen, and I want to go back to the LSI activities page. We've entered a juvenile court activity and a diligent search activity. We also have options for orphans court, pre-court involvement, DHS expunction, and hearings. If you are familiar with the previous version of the SWAN portal, the substance of making these entries is essentially the same, although the system functionality has changed slightly. Let's take a look at the hearings category. As experienced LSI paralegals will know, entering data into the hearings section is not a requirement and is not reported to the state as an LSI activity. However, it may be helpful in tracking the status of cases within your county. As with the previous version of the portal, a hearing type is required. So let's say that was a dependency hearing back on July 25th for Tom, Jerry, and Garfield. At the very minimum, the hearing type and the date is required. We can also notate whether the hearing was continued and what the reason for that continuance was, as well as dates of court order and comments. We also have the opportunity to enter an outcome of the hearing. In this case, we'll say that adjudication was granted. But if there is no outcome that applies, we simply would not check one of those options. Back to our LSI activity screen, and we see all of the entries that we have made. Juvenile court for attending the hearing itself, and the diligent search performed on July 23rd. For those who have experience with the prior version of the SWAN portal, LSI activity entry should be very straightforward. If you have questions about the definitions of specific LSI activities and when and how often to enter them, please consult the LSI user guide for SWAN Portal version 3. You can also speak to your supervisor or reach out to the RQA specialist for LSI, which is myself, Anthony Zamet. A few additional notes about the LSI activities page. We see an option up top labeled View Report. Clicking View Report in this top bar will display a report of all activities completed for the child, which can be exported into an Excel spreadsheet. Here we see the report generated of all the entered activities. Clicking this down arrow on our Save or Export icon gives us the option to export the report into an Excel file. To do this, we would not choose an Excel format type, but a CSV or comma delimited. And here we can see that information pulled into an Excel spreadsheet, which can be manipulated or saved as needed. Another function on the LSI activities page is the ability to sort activities using advanced filters. If the advanced filters are not shown, click the down arrow next to Show Advanced Filters. This allows us to sort the activities by category, by custody agency, or within an activity date range. This can be very useful for an older record that has a lot of LSI activities. To demonstrate, let's say we only want to look at juvenile court activities. We'll simply choose juvenile court under LSI activity category, and we will click the magnifying glass search button to the top right. And we can see our list is now limited only to juvenile court activities. To undo that, we'll simply click all, and again, hit our search button. If this child has had involvement with multiple agencies, we can sort by the agency, and we can also sort within a date range. Let's say we want to look only at activities between July 24th and July 26th. We'll put those dates in, click our search button, and we are limited to only activities that occurred within those dates. And to undo that, we will simply clear those fields and again, hit the search button. Please note that the ability to filter by entering data into the actual text box itself is not enabled at this time. Finally, a note about the actions buttons that you will see to the left of the listed LSI activities. If you click the down arrow, you should see the options to either view or edit an LSI activity record. An LSI paralegal user interface should not have the ability to delete. To view the activity, simply click View, and we can see the details of that activity in a non-editable page. To make a change, simply click Edit, and you can make edits accordingly. Perhaps you accidentally clicked the wrong activity or entered the wrong date. For a specific detail involving the parameters of activity entry, please consult the LSI user guide for SWAN Portal version 3.